They say they're gonna help us. They say they're putting millions of dollars into like, getting us a housing and getting us off the streets, but realistically, where's all that money going? You don't see us getting off the streets. You see more homeless people every day.
Michigan's housing crisis is hitting a critical limit, exposing painful realities regarding our community's hardships. This isn't merely about folks missing housing. It's about systemic problems like financial disparity employment, instability, and an escalating fentanyl scourge shattering families everywhere.
That homelessness is a problem that plagues our community. It's not the big cities only. It's not people who just don't want to work. And it's an increasing problem with the economy in the shape that it's in. People aren't looking for handouts, they're looking for hand-ups, they're looking for resources, they're looking for jobs, they're looking for a livable wage. They just are without right now.
From Detroit neighborhoods to rural villages, more residents encounter constant instability, caught in loops fueled further by dependency and meager resources. Even with work from volunteers and charities, this disaster remains and intensifies. What's pushing homelessness in Michigan now? And where does fentanyl land within this intricate puzzle? Such issues require our immediate focus and response. The growing crisis of homelessness in Michigan. Homelessness in Michigan is no longer just a background concern. It has become a growing crisis that's increasingly difficult to ignore. In 2023, 33,226 Michiganders faced homelessness. That figure isn't merely a statistic. It represents veterans sleeping in their vehicles, single mothers struggling to keep their children safe in motels, and seniors enduring cold nights wrapped in borrowed blankets. It tells a story unfolding not only in Detroit, but throughout suburbs and rural counties alike. In Detroit, Hamtramck and Highland Park alone, the official January 2024 count recorded 1,725 people living without stable housing, a sharp rise from 1,482 just 1 year prior. In Grand Rapids and Kent County, the homeless population climbed from 317 to 403, an increase of more than 27% according to local outreach teams. Perhaps most heartbreaking, 9 through 15 school-aged children across Michigan were reported homeless in the last school year. This isn't just about shelter. It's about kids trying to finish homework in the back of a car. Even these numbers, however, don't fully capture reality. Many remain hidden couch surfing, sleeping in storage units, or tucked away in parking garages. Where shelters exist, they are often at capacity. Resources are stretched thin. Even as non-profits and government programs work tirelessly, the crisis continues to worsen. This raises the question, why?
My life was pretty much out of control and had been for quite some time. Ended up spiraling out of control with drugs and alcohol. I eventually lost everything, apartment, all belongings. Ended up trying to commit suicide.
Are we focusing on temporary solutions while overlooking the root causes? Is it that living costs rise while wages and available housing lag behind? Or is the system itself fragmented, slow, and underfunded, unable to meet the scale of the problem? The urgent question is not only how we arrived here, but what unseen forces make this crisis harder to escape. One of the deadliest forces impacting those homeless in America today is fentanyl claiming lives both on the streets and inside shelters. The deadly role of fentanyl in the homelessness crisis. If there's one factor that has made homelessness not only more widespread, but also more lethal, it's fentanyl. This synthetic opioid has fundamentally transformed the landscape of the crisis. For those already living on the edge, battling mental illness trauma, or simply struggling to survive outdoors, fentanyl is not just another drug. It's a deadly trap. Consider Jason, a man I encountered on the streets of Detroit. He once worked in construction, but after enduring a series of personal losses, he ended up first in a shelter and eventually on the streets. One night after a cold, lonely day, he was offered a small bag of something that promised to ease his pain. The next morning, he was discovered unconscious, barely clinging to life in an alley. The fentanyl unknowingly mixed into what he believed was heroin was far too potent. His story isn't unique. It reflects thousands of similar cases across Michigan, mirroring a national pattern among homeless communities which any serious documentary should explore. In recent years, fentanyl has inundated Michigan's streets. It's cheap, incredibly potent, and often laced with other substances without the user's knowledge. Just 2 milligrams, a quantity smaller than a grain of rice, can be fatal. In 2022, Michigan saw over 2,900 opioid overdose deaths, with fentanyl implicated in the overwhelming majority. These statistics hit the homeless community hardest, reflecting a trend seen across the United States. People without stable housing are more likely to turn to drugs to cope with cold pain or fear. But with fentanyl, there is almost no margin for error. Outreach workers throughout Michigan now carry naloxone and overdose reversing medication as standard equipment. Still, it's often insufficient. In Detroit, first responders report multiple overdoses per day among the homeless population alone. This isn't merely a public health problem, it's a life and death reality on the streets. And it raises difficult questions. How can we discuss housing without addressing addiction? How can we expect someone to remain sober when they lack a safe place to sleep? Fentanyl has transformed homelessness from a crisis of shelter into a crisis of survival. What are we doing, not only to provide housing, but to keep people alive? A documentary on this issue would reveal the urgent need for interventions addressing both housing and life-saving measures for the homeless in America. Unpacking the root causes beyond addiction. It's easy to look at homelessness and assume it's all about poor choices or bad luck. But once you dig deeper, the story becomes more complex. In Michigan, as in much of the country, homelessness isn't caused by a single factor. It's the product of multiple forces working together, and these pressures have been building for years. First and foremost, affordable housing is more scarce than ever. Rents have soared across the state. In cities like Lansing or Grand Rapids, even a modest one-bedroom apartment can cost over $1,000 a month before utilities are added. At the same time, wages for many working people have barely moved. When housing costs outpace income, it doesn't take long for families to fall behind. Then there's mental health care, or the lack thereof. Many living on the streets struggle with untreated depression, anxiety, or more severe disorders. Accessing help is complicated. Appointments are limited. coverage is patchy. For someone already in survival mode, navigating the system can feel impossible. Job insecurity is another factor. Michigan's economy has recovered since the factory layoffs of the 2000s, but many jobs today are part-time seasonal or gig-based, offering no benefits, no sick leave, and little stability. One missed paycheck, one car repair, one unexpected medical bill, and life can spiral out of control. And we can't ignore addiction, especially with fentanyl in play. But blaming drugs alone misses the deeper reality. Addiction often follows the loss of housing, not the other way around. So, what really drives this crisis? The answer lies in a system that too often fails those who need it most. When the essentials housing, health, work, safety aren't secure, how can anyone be? Vulnerable groups and the unequal face of homelessness. When discussing homelessness in Michigan, we must recognize that not everyone experiences it in the same way. Certain populations face distinct, disproportionate challenges, and understanding these struggles is crucial for developing effective, compassionate solutions. Women, for instance, often flee abusive relationships only to find themselves without shelter, with limited access to safe spaces. Maria, a survivor of domestic violence, ended up living in her car with her 2 children after escaping an abusive partner. The shortage of family-friendly shelters, or those offering adequate security, made their situation even more desperate. LGBTQ+ youth represent another high-risk group frequently rejected by their families and thrust into homelessness. Lucas, a 17-year-old I met in Detroit, had been living in shelters since coming out to his parents. Abandoned and unsupported, he quickly fell into cycles of exploitation and substance use, just trying to survive each day. Without a stable home or support network, the dangers for these young people are immense. Veterans too face obstacles that demand attention. After military service, many return home, coping with mental health issues such as PTSD or addiction. John, a veteran I spoke with, shared that after returning from Iraq, he struggled to adapt to civilian life and navigate the complex VA benefits system. Eventually, he found himself homeless on the streets of Detroit. Seniors and people with disabilities are often overlooked in these discussions. With fixed incomes that rarely cover rising housing costs or unexpected medical expenses, they too are highly vulnerable to homelessness. As we examine these different groups, we must ask, why are these populations facing the harshest hardships still so underrepresented in policy debates? How can we provide more targeted support to help them rebuild their lives and thrive? The social safety net strengths and gaps. Michigan offers a variety of social programs designed to prevent homelessness and support those already without stable housing, yet major gaps in reach and capacity persist. Programs such as Section 8 rental assistance and help from the Michigan State Housing Development Authority (MSHDA) remain essential lifelines. Still, long waiting lists and ongoing funding shortages mean countless families in crisis never receive the aid they urgently need. Likewise, food assistance programs like SNAP are critical, but those experiencing homelessness often cannot fully access these benefits without a permanent address or cooking facilities. Even basic meals become a struggle. Healthcare support, including Medicaid and mental health services, theoretically provides a safety net. Yet in practice, it's a complicated maze for people lacking permanent homes or proper identification. Addiction treatment programs face similar hurdles with limited availability and inconsistent funding, making it difficult for those struggling with substance use to get sustained care. Emergency shelters and transitional housing meet immediate needs, yet they are frequently overcrowded and lack the resources for comprehensive care or long-term stability. Innovative initiatives such as Built for Zero Michigan offer promise using data-driven methods to coordinate efforts between local governments and non-profits in the fight to end chronic homelessness. Cities including Ann Arbor and Grand Rapids have implemented Housing First programs, placing permanent housing at the forefront as a foundation for recovery and rebuilding lives. The expanded availability of naloxone has also been a life-saving development, reversing countless fentanyl overdoses. Yet, as these programs advance, the broader reality of homeless in America underscores that systemic problems demand systemic solutions. Are these initiatives sufficient? How can Michigan's social safety net expand to address the growing and evolving needs of its homeless population? What additional steps are necessary to ensure no one slips through the cracks? The economic and political challenges. Addressing homelessness in Michigan isn't just a matter of compassion or public health. It's a complex economic and political challenge that requires bold action and sustained commitment. Economic inequality remains a major barrier. For many working-class Michiganders, wages have barely increased while housing costs continue to climb. The reliable blue-collar jobs that once supported families are disappearing, replaced by automation outsourcing and global economic shifts. Without stable, well-paying employment, affordable housing feels out of reach for far too many. Politically, progress is equally difficult. Developing affordable housing demands significant investment and decisive leadership, but zoning regulations and local opposition often stall or derail projects. Not in my backyard sentiments, though, understandable, exacerbate the shortage of safe, affordable homes. Tight government budgets offer little relief as homelessness competes with education infrastructure and public safety, for funding making consistent support for effective programs challenging. The policy environment adds further complexity. Funding for housing, mental health and addiction services fluctuates with political priorities, often trapped in ideological deadlock that slows bipartisan action. These obstacles reflect the larger struggle of homeless in America, where economic and political barriers hinder sustainable solutions. So, what path can Michigan take forward? How can leaders, elected officials, business owners, and community organizers overcome these hurdles? What roles should private companies and philanthropic organizations play alongside government efforts? These questions compel us to rethink responsibility and community. Can we come together to create a Michigan where no one faces homelessness alone? It's time to move past excuses and commit to a society where everyone has a secure place to call home. Looking forward toward comprehensive solutions. Addressing homelessness in Michigan cannot be solved with quick fixes or isolated initiatives. It requires a wide-ranging coordinated strategy that fully recognizes the complexity of the crisis. Central to this effort is increasing the supply of affordable housing, particularly permanent supportive housing that combines safe living spaces with essential services. Building more units alone isn't enough. These homes must be accessible, secure, and linked to mental health care, addiction recovery, and job support to help people rebuild their lives. Simplifying access to assistance programs is another crucial step. Far too often, red tape and confusing paperwork stand between someone in need and the aid they deserve. Enhanced outreach through mobile teams and peer support can deliver resources directly to people before they reach a breaking point. At the same time, stronger enforcement of anti-discrimination laws and addressing systemic obstacles can ensure marginalised populations, veterans, minorities, and people with disabilities receive fair access to opportunities and services. Prevention is equally important. Programs focused on eviction avoidance, financial education, and community-based support can help people maintain stable housing from the start. Public awareness campaigns can reduce stigma around homelessness and foster greater empathy and understanding throughout communities. The fentanyl epidemic cannot be ignored. Combating it requires expanding harm reduction strategies, including broader naloxone distribution, safe consumption sites, and increased access to treatment and counselling. These interventions save lives and create paths to recovery. The road ahead will not be simple. It demands cooperation among government agencies, non-profits, private sector partners, and communities themselves. But with a unified vision and commitment, Michigan can achieve meaningful progress in reducing homelessness and restoring dignity. The question remains, are we ready to step up and face this challenge together for the homeless in America? Conclusion. Homelessness in Michigan is a complex crisis driven by interwoven economic, social, and health factors, including the deadly toll of fentanyl addiction. Tackling it requires more than temporary solutions. It calls for bold systemic reforms that expand affordable housing, strengthen healthcare and social services, and remove obstacles faced by vulnerable populations. Though the path forward is difficult, Michigan has the capacity and determination to create real change. Now is the time for all of us to consider, how can we as a community and a state rise to the challenge, end homelessness, and build a future where every person has a place to call home for the homeless in America?